Shalom, my friends. Today's Daf Yomi, actually the Daf Yomi for Shabbos Kodesh, is Kesubos Nun Tes, and we're going to start on the bottom of Nun Tes on the base, around 10 lines from the bottom, where Rabbi Meir had said, Hamosar, if it's the leftover of the extra salary that the woman makes, if the husband consecrates that, Rabbi Meir says it's considered consecrated, whereas Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar says it's not able to be consecrated. So the Gemara says, Emas Kadosh. When is it consecrated? Rav Shmuel da Amri Travayu, Rav and Shmuel, they say that if the husband consecrates it, when does Rabbi Meir say it's consecrated? Mosar la'achar misa kadosh, that the extra salary is consecrated after she dies, and then he's able to consecrate it. Whereas, meaning to say she dies and he inherits it. Whereas Rav Ada bar Abba says, Mosar michayim kadosh. According to Rabbi Meir, he consecrates it even while she is still alive. Mosar michayim kadosh. So the Gemara says, Havi be Rav Papa. So Rav Papa questions this. Rav Papa asks the questions. He says, B'mai. What's the scenario we're talking about here? If we're talking about a scenario where the husband is giving her both support, and he's also giving her silver coins, well then, for her extra needs, well, my time of demand, then why do Rav and Shmuel say it's only considered to be kadosh after she dies? He's giving her this extra money, and so therefore he's entitled to her extra salary even while she's alive. Now, let's say he's not giving her support and he's not giving her extra money. Well, my time of demand, then what's the reason? If he's not giving her money at all, then why does Rav Ada bar Abba say that even while she's alive, it's considered sanctified? So the Gemara explains that what are we talking about? So really what we're talking about here is where he gives her support, but really what we're talking about in this scenario is where he gives her support, but he doesn't give her, hold on, I lost the place. He's giving her support, but he's not giving her the extra money for her needs. Rav and Shmuel, they say they're of the position tiknu mizonos, that the support corresponds to tachas masayadeh. The support corresponds to her salary, and so therefore me'akesef tachas mosar, and the extra money corresponds to her extra salary. Since he's not giving her the extra salary, therefore Moser Didahabi, she has the extra salary. Since he's not giving her extra support, she has the extra salary, and so therefore he only collects it after her death. Whereas Rav Ada bar Abba Savar, he's of the position Tiknu Mizonos Tachas Mosar, that the Mizonos actually corresponds to her extra salary. And the extra silver coins, those are actually corresponding to her regular salary. And so since he's giving her the salary while she's alive, Moser Didehavi. So therefore she's going to get the extra salary is going to go to the husband, so therefore he can sanctify it according to her mayor even while she's still alive. So the Gemara says, so what's the nature of the dispute between Rav Ada bar Hava and Rav and Shmuel? So the Gemara says the nature of this dispute is Mar Savar Midei Deshliach Midei Deshliach. So one says that what was instituted was the common thing to correspond to the common thing, and so therefore the mizonos, the regular support, is common, and that corresponds to her salary, and so the support is corresponding to her salary because they're both the common thing. Whereas Mar Savar, whereas the other one is on the position Midei Dekayitz and Midei Dekayitz. No, the fixed amounts correspond to the fixed amounts. So therefore, the salary is a fixed amount, but the support is not fixed. But the Mea Kesef those silver coins are fixed. And so therefore, that's why Rav Ada bar Abba says that the Mea Kesef corresponds to her salary. So the Talmud then says, Meisvei, so the Gemara says, let's bring a question. We're going to challenge this position of Rav Ada bar Abba. What does Rav Ada bar Abba say? What was his position? He says, he says two things. First of all, he says that she collects, that if a husband sanctifies her property, he collects it while he sanctifies her extra salary, he collects it while she's still alive, according to Rabbi Meir. And the reasoning is because her extra salary corresponds to the support that she was given. So the Gemara says, in Meisvei, we challenge this. It says, Tiknu mizonos tachas masiyadeh. We have explicit price which says that the mizonos corresponds to her salary. Isn't this a proof against Rav Ada bar Abba? Because he says that the Mea Kesef was corresponding to her salary, to her output. Gemara says, well, Ema Tachas Moser Masir. Just change the text to say May. It says it corresponds to the extra, the surplus of her salary. Tashma, Gemara says, well, now let's question Rav and Shmuel again. What do Rav and Shmuel say? Rav and Shmuel say that if he sanctifies her extra salary, that only is inherited after she dies, because he's of the position, Rav and Shmuel are of the position that the salary corresponds to her support and the extra salary corresponds to the Mea Kesef. So therefore, we're talking about a scenario where in our Mishnah where she had been given support but not salary but not extra, the Mea Kesef, and therefore was only collected after she dies. So the Gemara says, but we have a brayso which says, where we learned if the husband does not give her the extra coins, she gets to keep her salary, which seems to indicate that the extra money is corresponding to her salary. So the Gemara says, Ema moser maseh. No, it means that it doesn't. So again, what is the verse says? If he doesn't give her the extra coins, then she gets to keep her salary. No, it means that she gets to keep her extra salary. That's how the Gemara changes it. Gemara says it can't be that's the way we read it. Don't we say about that? Mahi osela. What does she do for him that she's required to? Mishkal chamesh slaim shesi b'Yehuda. That is saying what her salary is, not what her extra salary is. So it's a question on Rav and Shmuel. So the Gemara says, no, hachikamer ma'aseh adeh kame havi delay da moser dida kama mishkal. So all it's saying is we need to know her salary so we can know what her extra salary is. What does she need to? Really, I've been translating this as salary, but really it means what's her output. What is her output? It's 5 salaim shesi in Yehuda, which is 10 salaim bagilgal. So it says the Gemara, Amar Shmuel halacha Rabbi Yochanan Hasanor. Shmuel says, well, look, the law is like Rabbi Yochanan Hasanor, that if the husband wants to consecrate her extra work that she produces, then it's not consecrated. That's what Shmuel taught. So the Gemara says, Mi Amar Shmuel halacha Rabbi Yochanan Hasanor. Does Shmuel really say that the law is like Rabbi Yochanan Hasanor? But we have the following, meaning to say, what's the scenario that Shmuel is saying that what's the reason why he can't consecrate the reason why he can't consecrate her extra salary? What's the reasoning? And the reason is that the reasoning why it's not consecrated is because presumably she hasn't produced it yet. So Shmuel must be of the position that a person cannot consecrate something that's not yet in existence in the world. So therefore, he can't consecrate it after she dies, because at the time of the vow, she wasn't dead, and so therefore the husband and not yet inherited. So it's like something that's not yet in existence, and so therefore, while he's alive, it's not his. So the Gemara is asking the question: does Shmuel really say that the law is like Rabbi Yochanan Hasanor, that you can't consecrate something that's not yet in existence? But we learned in the Mishnah in Darim, what does the Mishnah tell us? Haisha Shamra. So what does the Mishnah tell us? A woman said, Konem. A woman says, Konem is an expression of a vow. She says, basically, this shall be prohibited to you. Konem Shani Osela Psicha. Everything that I make is prohibited for you to eat. That's what she says to her husband. She takes a vow. Under those circumstances, according to the Tanakama, the husband doesn't even need to annul the vow because she can't annul what she makes because he is the owner of it, because he has her output. So therefore, he doesn't even need to annul it. Rabbi Akiva says, Yafair. Rabbi Akiva says that he needs to annul the vow. Shema tadi falav yaser min haroil. Maybe she's going to produce extra than beyond what he actually owns. He only owns her agreed upon output, but maybe she's going to produce extra. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, Yafair, you should know it. Shema yigrashena v'tei asura lafsor. Maybe he's going to eventually divorce her, and then he'll be prohibited to remarry her because she's vowed that he can't get any of her output. And so Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and Shmuel says the law is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, which means how could Shmuel say the law is like Rabbi Yochanan Asandor, who said she can't prohibit something that's not yet in existence, when we actually have said here that the law is like. Here Shmuel saying the law is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, saying that he has to annul the vow because it will become eventually prohibited once she's no longer married to him. So it's not yet in existence, and nevertheless the vow against it takes effect. So the Gemara says, Ki Amar Shmuel Achu Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is lahadafa. No, he says no. When Shmuel is saying that the law is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, it just refers to the extra stuff she's making, not to the actual agreed upon output, the salary we're calling it, but the extra stuff. That's all he's saying is prohibited. Meaning to say that the law is that he has to annul the vow, but not for the same reasoning as Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. That's what Rashi says. Halacha the yafer v'lav mitameh. He has to annul it, but not for the same reasoning. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan says the main aspect of her. Rabbi Yochanan says the main aspect. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says he has to annul her agreed upon salary, her ma'aseh yadeh, the work that she produces. Whereas comes along, Shmuel says, no, the reason why he has to annul it is because of the adafa. Maybe she's going to produce extra, and then I'll have to annul it. And so that's what he's agreeing upon. So the Gemara says, so why doesn't Shmuel then just say the law is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri with respect to the extras? He needs to annul the extra stuff. Or Inami, or else he could have just said the law is not like the Tanakama. Or Nami, even better, he could have said halacha Rabbi Akiva, because it's essentially what Rabbi Akiva is saying. You need to annul it because of the extras. Elam Rabbi Yosef konamis ka'amris. Oh, Rabbi Yosef says you're asking a question from where she used an expression of konim, and there we're saying that she could still annul something that's not yet in existence. That's what Shmuel is saying. Shani konamos, the whole concept of konamos, of where she's annulling something upon him, is fundamentally different. Mitoch she'adam oser peros chavero, mitoch she'adam oser peros. So the whole concept of konamos is fundamentally different, because mitoch she'adam oser peros chavero alav, and so because what's the concept of a konim? That a person is saying that my own fruits is even the fruits of that a person is able to prohibit even the fruits of somebody else upon himself by a vow, and so too adam makdish davar shelo b'la'olam, and so therefore he can also consecrate it if it's not yet in existence. It means to say the whole concept of the konamos is fundamentally different, and so therefore that's why Shmuel rules by a konim. He rules like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So Abaye challenges this idea, this answer of his Rabbi Yosef. Says Abaye bishlam adam oser peros chavero lav shekain adam oser peros v'al chavero. Okay, yeah, I understand why a person can prohibit his friend's fruits upon himself, because a person can also prohibit his own fruits on his friend. But will that allow him? But will that allow him to also prohibit something that's not yet in existence on his friend? It's a totally different idea. It's an extension. Because a person is not able to prohibit his friend's produce upon a different friend. So therefore, the Gemara says, as a result of this, the Gemara says, let's push away Rabbi Yosef's answer. Let's give a different answer. Why does Shmuel say the law is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri here, whereas earlier Shmuel says, whereas earlier Shmuel said the halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan Asambar. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So the Gemara says, Elam Rav Huna, Breder Rav Yeshua, that what are we referring to here? Be'omeres, where she says, Yiktishu Yadai Lo'oseihem. What she says is, let my hands be consecrated to the one who has made these hands. The Yadayim, because in this case, so that's what she said. So that is that. So the reason why. So in general, Shmuel says a person cannot consecrate something that is not yet existence in the world. And what's the reason why in this case of Rabbi Yochanan and Nuri, she is that the husband needs to annul the vows, because she's saying, let my hands be consecrated to God. The Adayim Ismu Ba'olam, because my hands are still in existence in the world. So it's not something that didn't come into existence in the world, and that's why it takes effect. Gemara says, but can she really consecrate her hands? How is she able to do that? So her hands, there's a lien on them. Her husband has a lien on her hands, meaning he gets her output. So how could she consecrate them? So the Gemara says, she says, no, when I'm divorced, my hands will be consecrated. The work of my hands will be consecrated to God. So the Gemara asks the question, well, if that's the case, is it really possible that now, if she's going to prohibit them, that now they're not going to be Kaddish, and then it will become, later on, it will be Kaddish? Is that really possible? So she's saying that right now it's not consecrated, but later on, if she would make it hektish now, it wouldn't be prohibited to her husband. But since she's making it hektish later on, it will become prohibited to her husband. Is that really a possibility? I'm Rabbi Ilah. He says, yeah, it's totally possible. Don't we say, let's say somebody says to his friend, this field that I am selling to you, when I buy it back from you, when I buy it back, he says, when I buy it back from you, will not become sanctified? Of course it will be. So the Gemara says, Maska for Rabbi Yirmiyah. Midami, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, are these two cases the same? Hasam biyado aktisha. There, in the case of where a person sells his field to his friend, he has at that moment the ability to sanctify it. But in this case, right now, she doesn't have the ability. She doesn't have the ability to divorce herself, so she can't necessarily sanctify it at any specific point. The Gemara says, "Hello, Damya. Really, the similar case is similar to Omer Chavera Sadazu Shemachartilach. This field that I sold to you, when I purchased it from you, Tikadesh. But your field, this field that I sold you, when I buy it back, I'm going to sanctify it. Well, right now I can't buy it back, so the low kacha, so that's not sanctified. So then the Gemara says, well, different question. Maskef or Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, well, it's challenged Rabbi Yirmiyah. So who says that she can't sanctify her hands after she's divorced, because he compares this to one who sanctifies this field that he already sold. Maskef or Rav Dimi, midami. The two cases are not similar. Hasam, Gufa, Uperos, Biada. There, the field and the fruits, Biada de Lokech. The field and the fruits are in the hands of the purchaser. Hacha Gufa Biada. She herself owns her own hands. There's a lien on them to her husband, but Hacha Gufa Biadahu. So she owns the hands. So really, what's it similar to the following case? A person says to his friend, Sadazu, this field that I gave to you as a pawn, as a deposit, when I'll redeem it for you, we're on top of 59, but when I'll redeem it from you, Tikadesh, then will be sanctified. The Karcha, in that case, it is sanctified. So the Gemara says, Maska for Rav Shisha Berei Ravidi. No, he says, me dummy. No, the case is similar to a different case. Hasam biyado of dosa. There, he has the ability to always redeem his fields. He always can do that. But Hacha im biyado garish etzma. She doesn't have the ability to divorce herself. Halodami, it's only similar to the following case. This field that I gave to you for 10 years as a deposit. When I'll redeem it for you, will be consecrated. And that is consecrated. Gemara says, no. By the way, this is classic Gemara, showing all the distinctions between these cases. It says, Maskov Rav Hashi, mi dami, hasam eser shanim, miya biyado with dosa. There, for 10 years, is the ability to redeem it. Hacha, in biyado garish etzma. She never has the ability to redeem her, to divorce herself. Elam Rav Hashi, konamas kamras. We're talking about an oath where she says konem. Well, konem is totally different. Shani konamos to kedushas hakufninu. But konamos are fundamentally different because they're like karbanos that can never be redeemed. When you sanctify something, or it's chametz, or if you free a slave, they take you out of shibud. And so therefore, the case of the konamos is fundamentally different. So the Gemara says, why doesn't it become consecrated immediately? So the Gemara says, no. The rabbi said that the shibud, that the lien that the husband has on her is stronger. Because we don't want her to be able to sanctify her hands while she's still married to him. Now we say this Mishnah, very, very important Mishnah. And we're going to go over this stuff and go into more details about it on Shabbos Kodesh, but anyway, so the Gemara says, these are the activities a woman is supposed to do for her husband. What is she supposed to do? Tochenes, she's supposed to grind the wheat. Ofa, she's supposed to bake. By the way, don't get nervous. We're also going to talk about later on in our Masechta, we're going to talk about those things that a husband has to do for his wife. But now we're talking about those things a woman has to do for her husband. She grinds the wheat, she bakes the bread, mechabeses, she does the laundry, mevasheles, she has to cook for him. She has to cook for him. Minika espinah, she nurses his son or her son. Matzaas, well, mita, she makes his bed. Va'osa b'tzemer, she weaves the wool. Let's say she brings with her into the marriage. She's got a trust fund. She brings with her into the marriage one maid. She doesn't grind the grain. She doesn't bake, and she doesn't do the laundry. She brings in two. She brings in two maids. She doesn't cook. She doesn't nurse her son. Shalosh, she brings in three maids. She doesn't have to make the beds. She doesn't make the wool. Arba, she does four maids. Yosheves bekatedra. She sits on a throne. She doesn't do any work. Eliezer says, even if she brought in 100 maids, he can force her to do the wool. Not doing anything causes you to be sinful. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, even if a man says that I'm not going to get any benefit from work she does, Yotzi v'yiting suba. So he can divorce her and give her a ksuva, because not working brings you to insanity. You need to work. So the Gemara says, you want her to grind the grain herself? The water is what grinds the grain. She doesn't grind the grain. No, she caused the grain to be ground. Or alternatively, a hand grinder, hand mill. So Gemara says, our Mishnah that a woman needs to do the grinding of the grain herself. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Chia. The Tani Rabbi Chia ein isha el yofi. Rabbi Chia says a woman shouldn't be doing work. She's supposed to be beautiful. She's supposed to sit there and look pretty. She's not supposed to be doing work. And if she's going to do this work, she's going to look grimy. She's from grinding. And also he says, Ein isha el avanim, a woman's supposed to be there to make children, not to be working. The Tani Rabbi Chia ein isha el tachshite isha. That what's the purpose? A woman, you're supposed to buy her jewelry, not to send her out to the fields and working. Tani Rabbi Chia wrote, if Yalbishana clay pishan. If you want your wife to look beautiful, dress her in linen. Harotza sheyalbin bito. He wants his daughter's skin to be white. Yachilana afrochem miyashkena choav samachapirka. So then you should feed her like little birds, and also give her milk before she goes into puberty, so that she'll look beautiful. So not everybody agrees with our Mishnah. Rabbi Chia didn't agree with it. Okay, to this day, people argue about what should be the role of the wife, what's the best, most appropriate thing. So back then they had the same arguments also. And she has to nurse her son. Let's say she took a vow not to nurse her son. Beis Shammai says, "Shometes dan mipiv." But Beis Shammai says you take the breast away from his mouth, she can't nurse him. Vow takes effect. Beis Hillel says, "Kofo manikasa." No, vow doesn't take effect. You force her to nurse. This garsha ain't a kofe. If she's divorced, when she divorces, you can't force him to nurse. You can't force her to nurse. But if the child recognized the mother, no still you have to pay her to nurse the kofa minikasa. And you can force her to nurse in the asakana because it's dangerous. So we see that our Mishnah is not like Beis Shammai. So the Gemara says, no, I feel Beis Shammai. No, it could even be like Beis Shammai, where she took a vow that she's not going to nurse her son, and he did not annul it because Sabar Beis Shammai, and Beis Shammai says, who knows saying etzba ben shina? That what's the reason why she doesn't have to nurse? Because he didn't annul it. No, that she's the reason why the vow take effect. It was her guilt, and so therefore we force her to nurse him. So anyway, we'll stop here. But God willing, pick this up again. We'll review this on Shabbos afternoon. A very, very provocative daf. God willing, look forward to studying with you in more depth on Shabbos day.